I said we're in.
Okay, I want to join before someone else does.
I'm trying.
Okay. Staszek, what's going on? Like why we couldn't?
Engage.
Load of green goop. I assume.
Who should be the moderator if not you?
Game
But you should, Staszek, you should test it before. Yeah. So like we have like very weird situation right now. Anyway, like there's 10 minutes for testing audio.
And will drop out. Good. So the dropout testing already done. Or not.
Hello? Is my audio okay?
Yeah, that sounds fine. Not too loud, not too quiet.
Okay. Can I try screen sharing? I'm kind of using a weird setup, so I just want to test if I can screen share. I can hear you.
Yeah, Piotr got dropped out again. So one thing about if you're using the widget inside Element, the sharing will not work as far as I know. So you will have to do it from the browser.
I'm using browser.
Okay, so that's completely fine. Just try to share the screen. It's the third button on the control panel like near the mute and
sharing right now.
Okay. Not seeing anything yet.
You hear me now? Hello?
We hear you all the time, Piotr.
Okay.
You're just like dropping out like crazy.
I don't know, like it's just like kicking me out. Like I don't know why. Like I don't know, is it like bandwidth stuff or what?
Somebody's hacking you.
Maybe. I don't know.
Right.
Ideal time for having technical problems with.
Exactly. So another problem we have is that Void cannot share its screen. At least he's sharing, but I can't see it, at least in the widget. So yeah, I would check the browser.
Staszek, can you make someone else a moderator or someone or something, like change?
Okay, I can see
tips
and tricks.
Staszek, how you become moderator? You just like log it in, or how this happen? Where are the credentials for the logging in? Are there like company credentials or your personal credentials? Okay.
Wow.
Okay, I don't know. Like that. I have some like gut feeling that this would be terrible disaster for Dasharo User Group. Like I see like 8 people. There is like 9 minutes to start the event. Do you see? Do you even get notification if someone asking for entering, or how this works? So this is like very weird. So, but everyone's waiting for moderator. So this should be, you should get some notification. I don't know, Staszek, how you tested this this solution, and I guess Norbert is not with us. Okay. Very cool.
Well, that's a proper responsibility rotation. So Staszek is gonna like handle everything himself today.
We'll see. Yeah, I see like people dropping like mad. Like there are 6 people like and like I don't see like people joining. Like rather they are dropped.
Hello, can you see my presentation on screen?
Yep. One-time paths, an introduction and discussion of its feature. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
There's no like window. There's no other editing window, right? It's just the presentation.
Yeah, as far as I can see. Although I don't know if it is centered, because is the title supposed to be like aligned to? Okay, that's fine.
Yes, I think so. Also, okay, thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Now the slide title is like top left corner, so it's fine. So I guess it was just the first slide layout, so that it was like shifted to the left bottom corner. Yeah, Hypnotic, I see your like connection is like quite poor, so that may be a reason of you being kicked out, because like I saw for a brief moment the yellow connection like square near your avatar.
Think mine?
Yours is green for now, so I think looks good. Yeah, we will see. At least I hear you very well. Your camera broadcast is like pretty smooth, so I think that's fine.
Yeah, I can see sharing. Oh damn! Like, what is going on here? I cannot share tabs in the.
Yes, in widget it doesn't work.
No. Even I'm not in widget. I'm not. I'm normally
on a browser.
Yeah.
Okay. Firefox versus Chrome differences, maybe.
Yeah. I'm trying. My camera is over Chrome. Let me maybe try presentation in Firefox and maybe share the window. Would that work? Okay, I guess I'm sharing.
Yes, you are. Oh yeah, Void is connected over Tor, so
Yeah, I guess Tor can have some WebRTC issues.
well, but he was already talking to us and sharing slides, so all seemed good.
I guess like full screen
Surprisingly.
doesn't work.
Oh, maybe F11 or something else.
No, this is Cube stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, now it's great. It's like stretched to full resolution, like right now.
How to leave that mode?
Either press escape and hold it for a few seconds, or
Doesn't
maybe
work,
press
doesn't
F11.
11. Okay, F11 works.
Yep.
So F11. Okay, very slow. But
yeah,
okay,
you don't need like 60 FPS here, so
yeah, I guess like I want to try other presentation if this will
Yep.
also work with if I have everything in place. Okay, this seems to be good. We should start in a minute, to be honest. Okay. Okay. I guess I'm still sharing. Is it visible full screen?
Yes, full screen.
Yes, and
yeah, is the YouTube transmission finally public or still unlisted? Because if we are to start in a minute, then oh yeah, and Piotr dropped out. Cool.
so if we will have this kind of problems all the time during the event, then I kind of pass on Jitsi because like
it's terrible.
All the time. Yeah. Okay, the sharing is correct. Okay, I guess I'm sharing a different window right now, but it's okay. What's going on here? Okay, I guess like after me is Wessel. Do we have Wessel here?
I didn't see him unless
I see Wessel.
yeah,
Wessel is here, but Wessel, are you there? Are you online?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yep.
I can see this graphics. Okay, I will have to skip that. I guess we have to start because like we already passed the time, and like I don't know if this will like kind of drop me. I will try to rejoin. Like if this will drop me, then I will try to rejoin as soon as possible, and I guess we should start already. Staszek? Okay. Okay, so hello everyone and welcome to Dasharo User Group number 3. It's third event in a row. I will start with some greetings and some agenda for this event. So why we are here? We are here to talk about status of Dasharo and various related projects. We're doing this every quarter. So this event takes around 2 hours. And after this event, we have a vPub party where we kind of sitting and talking about random stuff, drinking our beverage of choice. We have some schedule which is published on the website. For this segment is recorded. So we have this 2 hours of recorded content which will be on YouTube. In case of vPub, we're recording only the beginning of the slot, which is on top of every hour. So it's like typically there are some demos there or presentation. So we record this 10 minutes, and when we switch to discussion or some open vPub discussion, then we stop recording. Yeah. So those things are not public. Yeah, so right now we have greetings agenda and some Dasharo community status, which I will show you in a second. Right after me, there will be Wessel with NovaCustom roadmap. The name of the talk was changed a little bit, but I forget to also update that in the slides, but I updated that on the website. So it's October 2023 update, right to repair and anti-temper solution. It will be presented by Wessel, the CEO of NovaCustom. After that, there will be Dasharo toolsuit status. We had release of Dasharo toolsuit, and I would like to talk a little bit about that, how the development's going. It would be very short. Then next short segment will be about Dasharo Openess score. Little bit what it is, what we want to do with that. Some of you who are part of this community maybe already know Dasharo Openness score, but I want to introduce it a little bit better to you. Then we will switch to Jan from Nitrokey, and Jan will talk a little bit about new products of Nitrokey. There was NitroPC announced, there are NitroPads coming, there are also Nitrokeys, and I guess Jan will highlight those products. Then we switch to the biggest segment of the meeting, which would be Dasharo community release roadmap. And I will talk about every roadmap that we planned since Dasharo User Group 1, and how this changed, how this evolved, where we are with that, and what are the plans for future. We will close with a little bit announcement, because we started to open
Very unfortunate.
Truly. But I don't see anybody having similar issues with dropping out.
Maybe because everyone just not sharing their screen.
Void did sharing, but he was not being dropped.
Yes, all fine to me.
Yeah, we try. Can you speak again, Vessel? I guess I saw some activity.
I think you can hear me now.
Yeah, with a slight delay on the camera, but yes, we can hear you finally.
Okay, so I was thinking maybe you can share the presentation. It is in what's it called, channels.
Okay, I will try to share for you what I will have.
Okay, I see that Jitsi completely destroyed the experience. Like this is like.
Oh, okay. Someone managed to open the presentation. So what are we going to do? Are we going to
Flip the
wait
slides
for
if you need.
Do you hear me? Yeah, I guess we have to migrate.
We can hear you.
We have to migrate because like this is like complete madness. Like I'm kicked out all the time, and I doubt we can continue this conference with this kind of destroyed user experience. So I guess like the only alternative that we have is 3mdep Jitsi as much as suggested.
You also use Nitrokeys.
my system. Do you hear me clearly?
Yes, it's fine.
Yeah,
Start?
Staszek, please share the presentation.
I already shared, so
Okay.
we can talk.
So let's go.
Okay.
Let's go. Michał already shared.
Okay. So yeah, thank you. I'm Wessel, and I'm here to tell something about the October 2023 firmware update we have for our NovaCustom Dasharo devices. I will tell something about the right to repair and what we are doing about this. So I will also talk about the anti-tamper solution. So let me introduce myself. I'm Wessel Klees-Nakenboog. I have established NovaCustom in 2015, but it is called NovaCustom since 2018. We are based in the Netherlands, and we offer highly customizable laptops with optionally custom laser engravings. We support both Windows and GNU Linux operating system, or even both at the same time as a dual boot option. We are very privacy and security focused, and we highly value the rights to repair and sustainability. You can hear more about it. You can read more about it at our website, configurelaptop.eu. Next slide, please. Perfect. Thank you. So I will tell about the right to repair and durability. We have some new physical privacy options. We have an anti-tamper solution, the physical anti-tamper solution that I would like to introduce. Then I will tell something about the new October 2023 firmware update. We are also working on HATS firmware, and I will give a bit of explanation about it and the benefits. I will let you know the current state of it and the costs. And then I will talk about our new feature plans, and I hope we can have some time for questions and answering after that. So about the right to repair and durability, what is NovaCustom doing about this? Well, we offer 3 years of warranty for our laptops and at least 5 years of firmware updates after the purchase of your new laptop. Besides, we also offer at least 7 years of guaranteed spare parts availability. And something new that we are doing right now is that we make pictures of the inside of the laptop, and we will publish these on our website so that potential customers can check how the laptop looks like from inside before buying it. So another thing that we do is that we are starting to make repair videos for all our laptops, starting with the NV41 series. Next slide, please. Thank you. We have some exciting new privacy options, which are an option for the camera and microphone module to be permanently removed. If you still need the internal webcam module, you can also opt for a camera slider pre-installed. We also have an option for a privacy screen to be pre-installed on the laptop. And the last new firmware, privacy option that we offer is anti-tampering solution, which is called tamper evident screws and packaging. So this option consists of two things. There is a glitter substance that we apply on top of all screws, and this glitter substance leaves a certain glitter pattern, which is recognizable, and you can identify it. On the shipping boxes, we apply anti-tamper tape, which leaves an open print if it's being opened. And we do not only apply this anti-tamper tape on all shipping boxes and inner boxes, but also on the laptop protection plastic bag. Optionally, we can also send you PGB signed pictures of all screws via proton mail. And with this option, you can compare the glitter pattern of the screws with the PGB signed pictures, which were sent via proton mail. Next slide, please. So at this slide, you can see that at the same position with two different laptops, there is a different glitter pattern. Then I will tell something about the new NovaCustom Dasharo October 2023 update for our laptops. This is quite a big update with a lot of new features. One of these features is an option to set a UEFI password for the setup. Then we have SMN BIOS write protection. The firmware update also has introduced early boot DMA protection, which blocks memory access at an early boot stage. Then there is a new option for network and USB stack control, as well as Wi-Fi and Bluetooth module switch. The new Tiger Lake, the new option for Intel ME disabling is now also available for the Tiger Lake laptops with an 11th generation Intel Core processor. This was already introduced for our Alder Lake models, but now it's also available for the Tiger Lake models. Then there is a camera switch option in the UEFI firmware, and the firmware has also been improved on the CPU throttling, which was basically set up to 90 degrees, which we think is a bit high. So we are now starting to throttle at around 75 degrees, and this should prevent overheating. Then there is a new firmware feature called battery charge thresholds and microcharging prevention, which is way better for the battery at the long term. Then there is official support for hibernation and also for suspend to run as free for our Tiger Lake laptops. And by the way, these Tiger Lake 11th generation is not in production anymore, but I still think this shows our commitment to even improve firmware for devices we do not sell any longer. And there is a new option which improves the stability of the laptop, which is called boot block when the battery charge is too low. We have improved docking station compatibility, and there is a new easy firmware update mode, which wherewith you can update your firmware with just a few keystrokes. Last but not least, Dasharo has introduced a new section in the documentation, which is called Openness score, and I think Piotr will explain a bit more about this in another presentation. Can we get to the next slide, please? Thank you. Then I will tell something about Corbeau plus HATS, which we are working on. And so what is HATS? HATS is designed to protect the boot process. It is ensuring the system's firmware and boot integrity. And it does this with measured boot, which generates cryptographic hashes for each component. And it is using the TPM hardware to securely store and attest. So this creates a good chain of trust, and it is in fact perfect for operating systems that are not supporting secure boot like CubesOS. Next slide, please. So what is the current state of it? We are currently in the alpha testing phase, and I would be happy to show you a demonstration of this HATS firmware on the 7th of October during the CubesOS Summit. We are introducing this only at the NV41 series laptop, because this laptop is CubesOS certified and it supports Intel ME HTTP disabling as well as free suspend mode. So what will it cost? It will cost around 60 euros a year plus the VAT, and you can choose between 1, 2, or 3 years of subscription when purchasing. Current device owners can also upgrade, but the subscription does not mean it is automatically continued. In fact, it just means that if you do no longer have the package, the support, then no further updates and support can be given. You can still buy additional support once your subscription has been expired. So I would like to take this opportunity to encourage everyone to be active, and I would say let's solve firmware issues together. Then a bit about our new feature plans. So this year we will publicly release the October firmware update, which I talked about, and of course we will start selling the heads firmware option starting from probably tomorrow already. We'll have to finalize a few things on our website in order to offer this, and it is actually a part of the Dasharo entry subscription. That's the part the customers paying for. In 2024, probably in the second quarter, we will probably introduce some new models, including the 14th generation Meteor Lake processor. Some new models will come with this processor generation, and these will support DDR5 memory and PCIe 5. In the year 2024, we will also aim to support Dasharo for all the models that we offer, and we are considering to offer Intel boot cards, possibly being part of the Dasharo entry subscription, and capsule updates. We are also checking on the feasibility of that. So yeah, this was my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. And my question to you is, what firmware feature do you want? And I believe it's time for questions and further discussions. I'll check the chat.
Thank you, Wessel. And sorry for all these technical issues that we're facing. Yeah, it's first time on the Dasharo Group to that point. Are there any questions to the Wessel presentation?
I have one question.
Sure.
I wanted to ask whether the Intel Management Engine, disablement feature, is given by.
Yeah, we barely hear you. It's you are behind the wall or something, very far from microphone.
I can hear it clearly.
Me too. I guess someone is echoing. Someone else from the speaker.
Okay.
Not sure who that was, but
Whether you want, I can continue the question after.
Oh, now I hear very well.
Okay. Okay, no problem. Then the Intel Management Engine disabling feature is given by formatting a part of the code that runs Intel Management Engine, actually, or given by setting a bit in the HPA or something. I don't remember the name of the bit you set. Okay, yeah. Which of the two, for example, for the 11th generation of Intel?
There is no way to no tearing. So you're saying cutting off pieces of ME is no tearing, yeah?
I mean, I know that you can switch it off because it drains your DDR memory and takes 3 modules that make part of booting process. But exactly what are NovaCustom doing?
But for newer generation ME, this method is not proven. Nobody proved that method. There's supposed to be talk today, but it was cancelled for personal reason, I guess. But who knows? About neutering, so cutting off pieces of the modern version of CSME. But we will not have chance to discuss with the person who did the experiments with some success. So no, it's not possible for modern version, and there is like I don't know about any evidence of making it work for modern version of ME. So
thank you.
yeah,
That answered my question.
So that's Hubbit, yeah. That's essentially Hubbit, or I guess there is soft disable also, which is I don't know. Like Michał, can you technically tell what, like, do we have Michał still? We have.
Yeah, so let me take it over. Are there any other questions?
I had a question regarding Intel BootGuard, but it got answered in the last slide, so not anymore.
So Marek, what question you supposed to ask? As what question was answered?
Yeah, the plans about Intel BootGuard.
Plans about Intel BootGuard, like we in 3MDep we already using NovaCustom laptops provisioned with Intel BootGuard.
Oh,
so
that's nice info.
Yeah. So we already have the support. This is part of our Dasharo Enterprise offering. So if you have customers or someone who is interested in such, locking the system, that's, feel free to contact us and we will explain what's going on, how to do that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, that's blowing fuses. Okay, I guess we have to move on because we are behind the schedule, a lot behind the schedule, and yeah. Sure. Yeah, I hope that I will not be dropped again. Okay, I guess I lost connection again. Do you hear me now? Okay, so I can present. Okay, let me try again. Right now? That's probably my bandwidth. I don't know what's going on. Why I have so terrible bandwidth to Gdańsk, like, which is so close, and we are under attack. Okay. So I would like to give you the status of Dasharo toolsuit. What's going on with this project? So I will start with short introduction. I guess I will not repeat what I said during the last Dasharo User Group. And then what's happened between version 1.21 and 1.28. And there are even new versions coming. I already saw some release candidate for 1.29. So Dasharo Toolsuite is our Swiss Army knife Linux distro for deploying the Dasharo, plus doing some stuff with the firmware. So we have modern Flash ROM there, modern Intel ME tools, sometimes patched with our own improvements. Whole code is open source, is on our GitHub. So if someone wants, can audit that. And if you want to learn more, there is a bit.ly link here, Dasharo Toolsuite, with the link to the Dasharo Toolsuite section from the previous Dasharo User Group, where I explain vision and plan for this distribution. So since last meeting, we were able to do some silent releases without announcement, without noise, even without the information on Dasharo Universe. On Dasharo Universe, you could saw that there was 1.26, which was some beta preview release for some users, and then 1.28, which is fully featured, validated release, which I will discuss on further slides. But let's go through history, because 1.28 contains all these improvements from the previous versions. So we can see 16 June, we did quite a lot of releases one day. We added Jasper Lake support for Coreboot utils, Alder Lake support, and we also enabled in BusyBox DevMem application, so we can access memory. This is useful for porting and for debugging purposes. Then in 1.4, we added the ME cleaner. Of course, ME cleaner got this limitation of being able to clean the ME only for the older version of the ME, but who knows, there is some development, maybe things will move forward with some improvements. We're still waiting for someone picking up that project. For some reason, the original author do not invest too much in it right now. Then we realized that we have some bugs in the Dell BIOS update procedure. So there was some, I guess, either broken links or either we were unable to fetch from the Dell website the BIOS binaries from which we take some components to deploy those on the Optiplex. But that was fixed. And then in 1.6, we added 9 elements TXT suite because of the development of Threadboot anti-Vilmate and need for this tool, which help us diagnosing if Intel TXT is correctly configured. In 1.7, we added zero-touch initial deployment for the Z790 MSI. This also enabled us to do these deployments for Dasharo entry subscription users. We also had to do some fixes, improvements to make sure that the version 1.2 of Z690 also worked for those users. So we did these improvements, and we added Coreboot. We added Raptor Lake support for Coreboot utils, and there are some UX improvements, but we are still far from what we would like to see. And our kind of small dream is to have interface looking like maybe Mr. Chromebox user interface for the flashing tool. Yeah, and of course, another problems with Dell packages, but this was also fixed. Finally, the 1.28 was kind of mature enough. We check for SMM protection before flashing, so there will be some weird errors, issues during the flashing process, or partially flashed firmware. So 1.28 is published. You can download it from the website, verify signature, and use it for deployment. Yeah, bugs everywhere. We are aware there are quite a lot of feature requests and bugs reported regarding DTS. For some use cases it works quite well, but there are some corner cases, let's say, or some unpredicted by us behaviors of users that trigger some problems. And this is something that we would ask you to report, so we can fix that in further versions. There are some problems with hardware checks. We have some reports that someone flash the 1.1.1 version on unsupported processor, like with unsupported processor. In that way, they locking themselves out in the platform, so they have to have some way of recovering it, and that's problem. Yeah? The easiest way is to swap the processor to the compatible one and boot and then revert. But the problem is if someone don't have processor, they need program. Look like right now. Then there is also a way if someone wants to just try the Dasharo toolsuit and see how you can play with it. You can use it in QEMU. So in issue 338, you can check how to run Dasharo toolsuit in QEMU. Of course, like not much will work there, but you can experiment and test this system. Okay, there is like Planet version 2, but we don't know when this. Of course, the date here is 27, so yesterday, but it was not released, and we don't know when the number of bugs completed is 21%, and I hope this will move forward. One of the goals of this release is to really make good UI, to improve error handling. And also to provide zero-touch initial deployment for other platforms. I don't know if they're precision because like it's delayed on the roadmap, but who knows? Maybe also this one. And of course, like QA. Hello. Okay, I'm sorry for that. Like, probably that's my part, but I don't know how this happened. Like, this is very like weird instability.
It's just your part, since looking at the connection data, sometimes also for me it shows it hovers between non-optimal and bad and poor. Although now it shows good, so I don't know. It's possible that there's also some additional load on the Jitsi servers.
Check if given devices auto.
Hello?
Okay, do you hear me now? And I guess like you lost
I can also
presentation. Hello?
I said that I can also hear you.
Yeah, but I guess like half of the presentation was not presented, to be honest, yeah?
I'm checking if there's issues with Just Eat servers in the meantime, if I can.
Okay. Yeah, but maybe this is not Jitsi, but some connectivity or some, like Jan said, some one instance of the Firefox can destroy, or some weird instance can destroy whole setup. I don't know, like Maciej. So presentation, how big part of presentation was really presented? Okay, shall I repeat that one, and then we can like, okay. Yeah, this one. So I guess like we didn't deliver that release, despite the date here is 27th. We have like 21% completed. The main goals of this release are to create shiny, beautiful UI, probably closer to Mr. Chromebox user experience, plus some error handling, correct error handling. It would be great to have some logo, but that's let's say like nice to have feature. The very important thing for us is to have QEMU image in which we can test all the features. So we can have CI which automatically tests Dasharo toolsuit if we didn't hit the regression, and based on that build features and make sure that newer version do not break anything for new users or with some configurations. And zero touch initial deployment for new platforms is also something that coming. Yeah, I don't know when we will deliver that. I hope this year. I hope maybe by next Dasharo User Group I can just share with you that we have version 2.0. Okay, what about roadmap? This is the same what I said last time. I guess the most exciting thing is the zero touch initial deployment for firmware as is. So the concept here is that we booting the Dasharo toolsuit, and then it can gather the information about the hardware, and based on that information can create a reasonable core boot config, which can be then provided as an input to the build system, to the core boot build system. And then when that binary is built, we can use that DTS to flash that core boot, and of course hopefully it will boot the platform, not break the platform. Yeah? That would be the best, because I guess the big gap for core boot adoption is exactly this. Is exactly this. I don't know how to compile. I don't know how to configure, and then I don't know how to deploy. Yeah, and Dasharo toolsuit could solve that. Yeah, I guess that's it. Maybe let's switch to the Openess score. You hear me?
I can hear perfectly well.
Okay. Any questions regarding Dasharo toolsuit? Yeah, I guess that's. Sure. Another tool that we're using is Dasharo Openess Score, and yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. So Dasharo Openness Score is a tool, is a Python tool designed to quantify the openness of firmware images. So we can know what kind of components are inside and which are open and which are closed. Of course, this is the methodology of the classification is kind of this subject to discussion. But I guess like this is something good to have discussion about how to classify things. I already introduced Dasharo Openness Score on the previous Dasharo User Group, and you can get to that presentation by the bit.ly link. So Openness Score is a Python MIT licensed code on the Dasharo GitHub repository, and we made some slight progress since last time, but yeah, maybe let's go further. So essentially, we published that documentation which explain the methodology behind the tool. Right now it's in Sphinx. I know that should be in Dasharo Universe MKDocs, but it is what it is right now. It's easier to document Python code using Sphinx, but we will migrate that to the MKDocs maybe by next Dasharo User Group. But essentially, going to that website, you can learn about the methodology, about the way we calculating the free space and the open source space and the closed source space for UEFI images, as well as for coreboot images. So I have like a small diagram here, which like roughly describe methodology of UEFI images classification. The coreboot classification, the CBFA classification, I think is a little bit more complex. But on the other side, coreboot is almost always everything is almost always open. But on the other side. Of the spy flash, to be honest, because it's not only BIOS inside, and we treat that with the Openness Score script. The way you're doing it is described on the GitHub documentation. But what the script does essentially, it identifies the regions in this binary. There are various regions. There is like flash descriptor, there is ME region, there is BIOS region. So it identifies this region and takes the properties of this region for the further analysis. Then separate stuff. Do you hear me? Am I still online?
Yeah, we just lost a few sentences between somewhere like on the other side, and then
just when you switched over to the methodology UEFI page, screen, whatever.
Okay, that's very hard. I guess like I don't know. Maybe that's my side. Like I have like some problems with connectivity.
I don't know. You're not the only one who's having issues. So it might be that, but it might actually be a combination of several different things at once. For example, on my side, I can see that I can hear you without any issues.
I lost also.
I'm sorry. Unless you cut out, I hear you perfectly well. However, the screen sharing, it's showing me at a very low resolution. So
yeah, it's like 120p.
No, not for me. Actually, for me, it's higher than that. For me, it's 254p, 480 by 254 pixels. Yeah, at least I'm still old enough to remember VCRs, so it's not that bad.
I wonder where I can check actually the actual quality of the.
You just hover the cursor over the.
Yeah, I see resolution.
And then
okay. Yeah, so it gets higher if the.
Okay, what about now? Do you hear me?
Yes, but you're constantly getting.
I can hear you perfectly well.
And probably dropped again. Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I've opened the. Okay. Mm-hmm.
That's a good question. How was the impression of versus presentation, like the screen sharing quality? All right, I may share the presentation from my side as well. Let me clone the repository quickly.
I'm looking at the GitHub page. Having two screens is very helpful here, especially when the main screen is 5x4. So and Hecko on the right side, Firefox on the left side. Second screen is the Firefox page with the Jitsi open.
put anything unusual there. Okay, so I already forgot where we finished, but yeah, just to quickly summarize how we classify the the components of an UEFI image, we just divide it into very simple categories, into empty space, pure data with executable code, or into closed source code. So basically, we take like every possible file in the BIOS region, check what the type of given file is, and put into a basket of empty data or closed source categories. Then we just sum up all those files in each category and present it in a more user-friendly way, typically some pie chart or just the most important numbers. So the most important, I think, is the closed source to open source ratio, or the closed source and open source ratio to the total image size and stuff like that. As Piotr mentioned, the core boot images and CBFS classification is slightly more complex because we have many more types of files in there. There are many exceptions. You can, of course, check out the code, and I have listed a bunch of them. So yeah, it's not so straightforward as for UEFI. So the very early openness scores were provided for the very first releases for NovaCustom and V4X laptops, and they were presented as follows. So basically, of course, the proprietary firmware delivered by Insight is like almost 0% open source in it. And with Dasharo, we're able to liberate 43% of that. Of course, this is like in comparison to the whole Flash. If you compare only the open and closed code, then this percentage rises a little bit. But this is just depending to what you refer to. So basically, as you can see, the open source firmware is able to liberate like around 40 to 60% of the most modern platform firmware. For older generations, of course, it is like even better statistics for the advantage of open source. I have also provided some sample reports on the Openess score repository, which you can check out. And yeah, it also can be like very different if you use verified boot and you have multiple copies of the firmware. This also influences how much open source there is in general. And of course, we are also planning to provide Openess score reports for all the NovaCustom future releases, starting from Tiger Lake v.5.0 and Alder Lake v.1.7.0. Yes, and as a part of those releases, we also send the newsletters to subscribers and people who subscribe to the newsletters, which like announce the new releases. We will have a special section that will inform what Openess score is in a very brief manner, and we will also be redirected to the page where the actual report is stored. It will be typically the docs.dasharo.com page. And yes, as you can see, you can already check out some very early reports on docs.dasharo.com. It is placed in the supported hardware section, and for each variant you can find, there should be an Openess score position in the list of contents. All right, and this is example pie charts, how the statistics looks like. For example, for those NovaCustom laptops, we have tried to provide multiple views of the openness, considering code only or various other point of views, like without ME and descriptor or with ME and descriptor. So basically, BIOS code only and full image as well. And this is, for example, the BIOS region only comparison. So as you can see, the percentage of open source is like slightly different. Here in the in the yellow, there is like 0.5% more when compared to the full image, while on the BIOS region only it is slightly lower because the numbers we refer to are different. So yes, the current status of the changes from the last Dasharo User Group. So we basically did not do much changes in the code yet. We are just proceeding with integration of the Openess score into the our Dasharo release machine. We want to have everything like automated first. And start providing those reports with each release, starting from NovaCustom, of course. Yes, we also planned to upgrade the documentation, so improve this methodology and the explanation behind it. You have to still migrate to MKDocs, of course. And we still need to integrate those Openess score into the newsletter, because what you saw was just the very early version that we plan to have it. So in the last quarter of this year, we would like to finalize the 0.2 version of Openess score, which will like include the CI/CD integration. So every Dasharo platform will be processed by this utility and produce a report whenever a change is made in, for example, in the either documentation or the Dasharo Openness score repository. We also want to present this data produced by the reports in a more user-friendly way, because pie charts maybe are not the best way to represent what we want to convey. And we, of course, want to have a comparison between the proprietary equivalent of the firmware image and the Dasharo, because currently the utility only takes one binary and produces the report for this exact binary. We have some very basic versioning of the utility, but we want to also improve this in the next version. And of course, as suggested by Thierry Laurent earlier, it would be cool to utilize the IFD tool to possibly investigate whether the management engine is present and how much space does it occupy, for a more detailed view of either UFI images or even the corporate images. Yes, and this is the issue 461. And as I mentioned, the migration from Sphinx to MKDocs is also can be tracked in issue 451. Okay, I guess that's it. So I'm open for questions. Are there any questions?
There's a question in the chat right now.
Okay, thank you. For all the used binary bus, is there an explanation available of why it is there and for what it is responsible? That's a good question. Our utility is quite dumb, to be honest. It just lists all the files that are there without digging into what is its responsibility. It only looks at the type of the file and its most probable designation. So whether it is code, data, or or of course closed source or open source, and that's it. Because when it comes to responsibility of given piece of actually determined, because the BIOS vendors may put actually anything to the images, and decoding the purpose of given file just by its name would be like some work for artificial intelligence, I would say. Yeah. But when it comes to Coreboot, it would be like much easier, because if we have the code for it, we can like really tell exactly what is given file used for and why.
Dzięki, Michał.
I have a question regarding the versioning.
Yep.
This is a bit of a stretch, but does Intel I don't know, it could be completely yeah, even if it does, it could be very rare, but do they have, is there an instance that Intel has made custom binary versions for specific vendors?
Binary versions for specific vendors. I have actually no idea. Typically, the BIOS or the reference code from Intel, for example, goes into the BIOS vendors, and what BIOS vendors do with it is like, it's like open book. You can basically do anything with it. Some distributions of this code, like for example, MSI has its own framework. Probably Gigabyte has its own framework for their own features, and probably they modify the reference code to its needs. But it is not a rule that every Intel platform out there does have the reference code modified.
Yeah, I also understood that Apple decided to completely bypass it at certain times. I've recently been in a non-destructive way while taking care of issues on a friend's old iMac. It's a Core 2 Duo era iMac. From researching regarding memory compatibility with the DDR8 800 megatransfers, it sounded like regarding CPU compatibility that Apple decided to just completely bypass Intel's usual system. Just they got it from they must have gotten from Intel a special version of the chipset that had some of the locking features disabled by default, and they just manually set things up. I'm sorry if I spoke too much.
No, that's no problem. So, do you have any further questions? Because if there was one, I think I missed it during the.
The whole point of my question regarding the custom versions is that, should there be such a thing, would it be a good idea to explicitly mark that it is a custom version? That was the whole point of the question. Would there be a point?
I don't know if there is any obligation to state so by anybody, actually. That's one thing. And second thing, if we modify something in the reference code, we try to be as as detailed as possible, at least with Dasharo. Like we have been modifying some FSP for platforms like Gaming Lake and Braswell for Protectly, because we had no other way around it because it was buggy, and either the platforms didn't boot for us because some things were hard coded and not not opted in and out, so it caused problems for us. And secondly, even if Intel is the author of their own reference code for their own platforms, they also tend to make mistakes, which like I once detected with IMMU. It was not initialized per the specification they release, so sometimes they release very rough specification how BIOS should initialize certain components, and yeah, they didn't follow it actually in the FSP, and I had to actually fix it because IMMU was not working. So such things also happen, and yeah, I think it is still important to actually state what do you modify and in components that you cannot provide source code for. Of course, there are components which probably will never see any daylight, like management engine. So this is only managed by Intel, and nobody actually can customize its code. Of course, there are utilities you can customize its configuration, so the runtime data, but never the code itself. It's like a fixed blob, and neither the BIOS vendors can do about it. Anything about it.
Legal issues.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have been around here in the last meeting, but for those of you who don't know me yet, I'm Jan, founder and CEO of Nitrokey. Nitrokey is a German company. We produce open source IT security hardware, if possible in Germany. I'm not going to spend too much of an introduction, but will focus on some news of the previous months related to Dasharo, and hopefully is interesting to this crowd. So I will focus on our Nitrokeys, NitroPC, and NitroPad. I think these are the topics most interesting for you. And as you see, we have some other products in our portfolio as well. Yeah, let's start with the NitroPC. NitroPC, we actually have two PCs called NitroPC. One is this tower here, and then we have the smaller mini PC, which we call Nitrokey 1. And for you guys, most interesting and also what has changed in the previous months is this Nitrokey Pro. So this is a come out of a collaboration with 3MDEP. And if you know 3MDEP's offering, you can guess that this is a PC based on the MSI Z690A motherboard. And we sell this as a fully featured PC. Also for the same for our other computing devices, we ship those pre-installed with either Ubuntu or Cubes. And similarly, as NovaCustom just explained here today, we also offer temper protection services like sealed screws, which then are sent to you and sealed back, and separate shipment also for some of our products of Nitrokey. I'm going to explain this later on. And yeah, this has been introduced recently. And other than this, we also have these laptops which NovaCustom mentioned. It's also relatively similar offering to NovaCustom. The main difference is that for now these laptops are not offered with Dasharo, at least not yet. Instead, we ship them with the Heads firmware. The Heads firmware has been ported to these laptops also recently. So thanks a lot, Thierry. I think you are here in the meeting. So Thierry helped a lot on this. So this means that Heads now is not only running on these laptops, but also has proper support of TPM 2.0 now rolled out and in production with these laptops. I think these are the first devices in production supporting TPM 2.0, at least I'm aware of. And other than this, we, of course, do sell Nitrokeys. This is how we started 8 years ago. And what is new is our Nitrokey 3. So that's not new as a new offering, but there are a couple of news in terms of firmware and integration to computers. So we published a couple of firmware updates earlier this year. And now these Nitrokeys are providing following features: FIDO2, this has been there from the beginning, but also a password save and save for one-time passwords, an integrated OpenPGP card, and also a PIV applet, at least as a test mode. And why is this relevant? Because this Heads firmware is specialized firmware in a nutshell, which provides measured boot protection mechanisms, and those rely on a separate Nitrokey as a trusted root, so that during the boot process, a Nitrokey is involved and measures the booted firmware and the booted kernel, and then indicates by either blinking red or blinking green LED on the Nitrokey device if the measurement has been confirmed, like if it's a valid measurement or if there's an integrity issue. So a potential man-in-the-middle or evil mate attack. This means that also now Heads has proper support to support Nitrokey 3s. Until recently, Heads essentially supported only our older models, Nitrokey Storage and Nitrokey Pro. I think it's on the last page or next page here. These are older models, and now we have good support for our new Nitrokey 3s. Yeah, this is what had happened. Maybe a quick outlook on what we are planning for the rest of this year is to provide further firmware updates for Nitrokey 3 models. All these 3 different form factors of Nitrokey 3 contain a secure element, essentially something like a chip card, but a little bit smaller, but with those physical tamper protection mechanisms. However, the firmware does not make use of the secure element yet. And we are working on rolling out and integrating the secure element in the firmware. This will be enabled by future firmware updates. So for next week, we plan the first update, which supports a random number generator or integrates a random number generator from the secure element, and then future firmware updates will roll out more functionality so that pins and cryptographic keys are also stored and protected in the secure element. We also plan to upgrade the NitroPC Pro to the MSI Z790 board to support the next CPU generation. And that's from my side, and now I'm open for questions. Okay.
I'm still looking at the website, so I haven't formulated any questions yet.
I have a question related to Nitrokey Pro. What differences in this new version are relevant for heads? Because heads used to work with older Nitrokey Pro too.
That's right. So from a heads perspective, it's just another device which containing an OpenPGP card and one-time passwords. But the interface of the Nitrokeys are different. So the interface of Nitrokey 3 for one-time passwords is different than the interface of Nitrokey Pro and Nitrokey Storage. So this is why we had to have heads being changed. But from the feature perspective of heads, it's all the same. But in addition to this, of course, Nitrokey 3 offers more use cases because it's more feature-rich than the other Nitrokeys. Yeah, so for instance, here Nitrokey Pro does not have support for FIDO, but Nitrokey 3 has. So that's our objective here is obviously to provide a Nitrokey which helps you in most use cases, and FIDO is the way to go. So modern authentication method. And the other question was on the different chips. And so we're talking about the MCUs, which are used within the Nitrokey 3. So we have 3 different Nitrokey 3 models. They have all the same firmware and very similar hardware, but they are different, not identical. The 2 larger ones, the difference is a USB plug, as you see, USB-C and USB-A plug. Also here, the picture with a USB-C device is a bit outdated. The casing now looks a little bit different. And they offer NFC support, so you can use it on mobile phones to use the FIDO credentials in your Nitrokey on a mobile phone and log, for instance, to log there in with a web browser. And these 2 NFC devices on the right side here, they contain an NXP LPC55 chip. And the smaller one, the mini, we call it Nitrokey 3A mini form factor. This contains a different microprocessor. It's a Nordic NRF52. The reason was supply chain. Since we published these devices, more than a year ago, during the supply chain crisis, I would say, we couldn't get too many LPC55 MCUs. This was the model we started with, so we had to switch to another MCU, and this is why we chose the Nordic. Both chips are relatively similar. There are, of course, in detail, there are differences. For a user, these differences should not matter at all, only for developers. So if you're interested, we can also ship development devices. So this means firmware development, embedded development, and then, of course, it makes a difference. Again, these are minor differences, but in a nutshell, I think the APC 55 have a bit more security capabilities, like a real fuse of a signing key, for instance, while the Nordic supports also a signing key, but it can be reset. So this is something like, say, boot guard for microprocessors, but for Nordic, it's a bit more soft because it can be reset and then a different firmware being installed. For us, it's not a security issue because we have a secure element, and then also all data would be inaccessible or gone anyways. Yeah, the Nordic, I think, has a little bit more storage space, a few kilobytes or something. Yeah, does this answer your question, Piotr? We continue with both. For these, the Nordic for the Mini and the APC 55 for the two others. This may change in the future, but we have a couple of thousand MCUs in stock of both models, so we will continue for the next 12 months at least.
Well, over here in the chat, one of the questions that were brought up, I pointed out that another thing, and it turned into a small conversation. There's a question why do the Nitro PCs only arrive with GeForce cards, GeForce 4000? Why only NVIDIA? Or just
okay. So what? Let me try to go back here. So we talk about the Nitro PC Pro, which of course has an onboard Intel graphic unit, but in addition, we also offer it with NVIDIA. For us, it's a starting point to start with optional NVIDIA cards because Cube seems to have better support of those. And we don't expect too many users to require now additional graphic cards. So it's a bit of a trial here to see what's the demand. Also, as written here at the bottom, we can offer other graphic cards on request. So just drop us an email and we check the situation. But we cannot start here with 100 different graphic cards being supported because then we would need to test all of them and purchase them and, integrate the drivers potentially and stuff like this.
That makes a lot of sense. The reason why I mentioned this that it turned into a conversation is because Blazer asked why not AMD, because how they are generally the drivers are generally more open source friendly with AMD. And I pointed out that it's a good question, but then we should also throw an Intel Arc into the equation, because some generally not always are even friendlier than the Radeon GPUs regarding open source.
Yeah, we are not against AMD. of any kind. It's just
No,
we have
you answered
to
the question.
limit our scope here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you answered
we
the
chose
question. It
NVIDIA.
makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you're interested, just drop us an email and we find a solution.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
By the way, there's something that I personally noticed, and it's not only in the Nitrokey store, but also other companies such as Tuxedo and others. Framework, for example, regarding devices that arrive with a power cord. Since you ship to pretty much almost the entire world, I was wondering if there's a possibility for countries that don't use the same plugs, if it would be possible to get it without a power cord.
Yeah, well, you don't need to use a power cord, but we only ship it with a power cord, so I don't think there's an advantage to remove
No, I
it.
just mean adding it as an option, not the default, because some companies do offer it as an option without a power cord.
Yeah, so we offer here 4 choices: Europe, North America, UK, Australia, New Zealand, and also UK is used in some other countries as well.
Yeah, that is true.
This covers, I think, 99% of our users.
Yeah, my country used to use the old British standard before we switched to our own standard.
Mm.
Yeah. India still uses the old British standard, by the way, except that they modified it slightly to allow for slightly more voltage. Physically, no changes, just standard changes.
I hear you. I guess too occupied with discussion.
Yeah, right. As you said, it's hard to obtain the board without Wi-Fi, and even if you get it, it costs more. Yeah, don't ask me why. We don't make these prices. Yeah. I guess the answer is simply that barely anybody buys a board without Wi-Fi, and this is why it's more expensive. Yeah.
It could be a push by Intel in order to promote their what's called again? I forgot. They have their own proprietary protocol. I thought that at least with Bluetooth was standard USB, but no. Wait, Piotr is speaking currently?
Yes, he is. I think we have here at least 2 different islands. Like,
don't you hear him? Oh my
I do not
goodness!
I do not hear Piotr. I just noticed Stanley asking if he's the only one who doesn't hear Piotr.
Well, I'm hearing him all the time, and I wonder what is happening. Like, he's talking to you, and you just ignore him and follow the discussion further.
Okay, so what about now? Maybe right now, do you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, this is.
I'm sorry about the confusion.
This is also weird. This is also weird stuff of the GC, that like if there is this order of connections different, then sometimes people don't hear each other. But like, let's just forget about it, because like like I'm completely pissed off on all this technology today, but we can talk about that during the vPub. I just wanted to say, Jan, that recently we also noticed that the computers with RGB LED are cheaper than like maybe otherwise. Those with the LEDs are cheaper than those without. So this is like I don't know. This is like when this world going on. Okay, so we know that you just get rid of Wi-Fi modules, correct? Yourself?
Pardon, say again?
You get rid of Wi-Fi modules on the main boards by yourself.
Yeah, right. Now, if you if you can't find a board without Wi-Fi, so we found a solution that then we remove the Wi-Fi ourselves. That's also possible.
Isn't it just a plug-in card under this cover? Actually, I recall there is.
It's not super complicated.
It's just a socket.
Couple of screws.
You plug it and then put a cover on those antennas and stuff like
Fun
that.
fact: I'm currently on Wi-Fi for my desktop with an Intel AX200 inside an adapter that I ordered off AliExpress from FMG31002.
So you can basically make a business with that. So you can buy all the Wi-Fi boards, scrap the Wi-Fi module, and then sell it separately, like for another profit.
Yeah. This is very, very interesting. You can earn money on both things.
I want to see someone trying to hack Intel Wi-Fi firmware. That would be very interesting.
Moriel, I would say like this is like off topic at this point. We can talk about that during the vPub.
Sorry.
Let me try to go with the next presentation. So thanks, Jan, for all the answers for the presentation of new products. Thanks for being with us, and sorry for the technical issues. So I guess like we have last 10 minutes and I have 2 presentations, so I have to go fast with that. So let me what about let's go. Welcome to the Dasharo roadmap. Like there is a disclaimer. Like I think the roadmap is evolving. It's changing a lot. You will see how many changes we have, but we also starting to release something. So there are also positive effects of tracking the roadmap. Just for those who don't who remember, or maybe some don't remember, Richard Stallman at some point was on the vPub. And when he was asked what we should do in open source firmware community to make it thrive, to make it work, he said like do roadmaps and execute on it, something like that. In short, so this is we're trying exactly vision of Mr. Stallman, and yeah. So this roadmap is just rough idea what we're planning to do. There is everything can change, and that's it. Let's move on. Yeah, so I changed this slide because previously I know that it's not very well visible. If there will be higher resolution, it would be maybe better, or different color choice, but the green and white is very terrible. But anyway, the point of this slide is that let's imagine you are a regular user, you are maybe wanna be open source firmware developer or tester, or just enthusiast. But you want to learn more, and maybe you want to pursue a career in this area. So what you should do? So or I don't know, like you want to learn it yourself. So you should start. We think you should start with open security training too. So this is Nitrokey project, which hosts publicly. Even some of the videos are released on the YouTube, so you can watch those trainings and take the classes, take the exercises there. And this is also what we're doing with our junior interns in 3MDev. So they taking some of these open classes, part of which we did, and we deployed on OST2. Thanks to that, they learn a little bit, and user can learn a little bit and can understand our topic a little bit better, and they can go to the next step. So they going through the bootstrap thanks to the OST2. After the bootstrap, we have something which is called PACE Enterprise Training. So we have all those juniors, maybe let's say a little bit advanced juniors, which can do something like you are a user which is able to compile core boot, maybe run it in QEMU, maybe even tinker something on the hardware, but you will need something more. Then we have this PACE Enterprise Training, which is part of our training in 3MDev if you are a 3MDev employee. But if not, we also provide this kind of training to the third-party organizations, so we can go to other companies which need core boot UEFI development, and we can train the employees, and that's something that is very customized for the company needs. And what can happen after that? After that, there are essentially 3 grades which can happen. So let's say we have these employees, either ours or either in other organizations. They doing this firmware hacking, and of course this is for some purpose, for some for hardware, for either for building hardware and selling the hardware with core boot, maybe for some internal company projects, or maybe like 3MDev for a living. Yeah? Then we have couple offerings. Then there is Dasharo community support. So Dasharo community support is more for individuals who would like to use Dasharo enabled or open source firmware enabled hardware, either in their daily life for the personal use, or maybe for company use, because they like transparency of open source firmware, privacy that it can provide. So the offering here is Dasharo community support, which is backed by Dasharo entry subscription, which is some fee added to the hardware or bought alone. And thanks to that, we can deliver this support to community and bring more releases to the table and enable more devices. The next level is Dasharo support package, which is used by various companies, like for example, NovaCustom, Protectly. We would be glad to have more companies, like back in the days it was PC Engines also. So this is like yearly package that we're selling, which consists of set of support time and resources from our side. So someone can deliver the can deliver the open source firmware Dasharo on their hardware, including all those features that we're developing. Of course, this includes maintenance, this includes upgrading the core book, upgrading the EDK2, and essentially like direct support in driving the project. And that is the highest level of the cooperation with us, which typically is targeted at ODM, but also hyperscalers, which consist of like very customized service level agreement, sometimes even with copyright ownership transfer. If this is some internal work, something which will not go immediately to the open source, or maybe never will go open source because of the company needs. Sometimes people doing the core boot ports for the stuff that never face the end user, because those are, I don't know, CNC machines or some embedded environment, like train device, like computers in the trains. Those devices not always facing end user, and the buyer don't have to look into code always. So that's the offer for those, and that's kind of a path how people who are completely not related with 3M can enter the ecosystem and and help us grow and find ourselves in various levels of building Dasharo and expanding the trustworthiness of the computing devices. Okay, so here there is not much change from the last year. This is essentially process for the Dasharo community support devices. We typically start with some discovery. We trying to understand if given device, if it makes sense to add given device to the community support. Then there is some evaluation. We're checking hardware if we have it, or we asking someone who have this hardware to check it. Then there is porting effort, validation effort, and there may be two types of releases: the community release and the subscriber release. The subscriber release is paid, and it's either you buying hardware with subscriber release or you buying the subscription itself. Yeah, the first two subscriber releases were released recently. It was firmware for MSI Pro Z690 version 112 and 0.9 for Z790, and all the variations of this board, because they can be with Wi-Fi, without Wi-Fi, DDR5 or DDR4. So yeah, let's go to the next slide. Oh, this is like not very high quality, but I guess you can get slides on the GitHub. You're going to Dasharo presentations, and there are slides there. Oh, okay, and Muriel already dropped the link. Okay, so essentially what happened here is a little bit change in the schedule, because we planned initially to release the QEMU, Dasharo for QEMU in Q3, but unfortunately we have to change that. So it's slipped to Q4, and I hope we can stick to that date. And I guess this is it. The most important thing about QEMU release for us is that there is this open source firmware validation infrastructure, which if we connect with QEMU, we can automate a lot of stuff. And I believe that this can be a vehicle which will help us move Dasharo forward faster, because we don't have to have hardware to implement new BIOS settings. Maybe there are some things that we can test even before we try it on hardware, and this should speed up the development. Also, this should improve the quality thanks to the putting everything into CI/CD. And in CI/CD, if we don't have to run on hardware, that we can run in emulation that speed up things. And I hope this is something that will accelerate development, and that's why we're doing the Dasharo for QEMU. Okay, next slide. Next is the new roadmap that I added. Of course, this is like, I would say this is wishful thinking, but we will see if we can execute that. So the plan here is to create a release for APU 3, which would be Dasharo entry subscription release, and I hope to do this in Q4. I would base that solely on the 4.19 version, which is like the last version released for PC engines, and we will see if we can sell anything, and we will see if we will put that in the shop, and if there will be interest, then that's great. If not, then like we will announce this is failure and we will not continue releasing for PC engines. But on the other side, there is also offer that we preparing to sell in shop, which is like completely custom builds for enterprises or maybe for groups of users which are in need of upgrading the PC engines firmware. And this would be also available soon. We like finalizing preparing that offer in the shop. I guess you already can read about it, and you can inquire if you go to the shop, you can find it. The second thing is the Protectly, based on VP 4670, and the idea here is to have a target on which we can run Trench Boot as a CubesOS anti-evil mail. As some of you know, we're working on anti-evil mail for CubesOS. We're trying to port Trench Boot there. Right now, like we have various technical issues, but slowly moving forward. We were able to enable TXT for this VP 46700. This is thanks to the Michix development. And I hope like we can gather this together, this experience, and then create special version, because I don't expect this will go by default with the Protectly firmware, and make it a Dasharo entry subscription offer for those who like this kind of protection, and we will see if this will fly. So this is another idea on the Dasharo network appliance roadmap, which is new roadmap, which was not here during the last Dasharo User Group. Okay, let's go with the next one. Another new idea and new roadmap is for laptops. It's for NovaCustom laptop. So NovaCustom asked us to do the heads plus core boot, so that this would be Dasharo release. We're still working on that, and we hope to deliver this release, which would be also Dasharo entry subscription release during the Q4. I guess like Wessel already touched this topic, so let's move on with the next segment. Yeah, the next one is also directly related to the similar concept that I told you about Protectly. This is the same situation, but based on Lenovo. So there are there's this cool series which serve the home, do reviews of the small boxes, like this tiny mini micro, and this is one of these boxes. Not the new, not very new one, but good enough, and on the other side, not blocked by Intel BootGuard, what was released recently confirmed. So we would be very happy to do the Dasharo for these boxes while enabling Trench Boot for it. We will see how hard it would be, but we already like this box because we can test anti-evil mail, we can test patches related to Trench Boot integration, and yeah, and that's why we like this box, and hopefully we can integrate it and provide offering for that. Okay, let's go with the next one. Dell desktops. Yeah, this is what I changed here. This roadmap changing a lot. So initially we planned to release 0.1 in Q2. We already are past Q3 almost. So that's what we had to change. So last Dasharo User Group, we changed OptiPlex target to Q4 and T1650 to Q1 24. And now essentially we're sticking to these deadlines, but we changed the type of the releases, that those releases would not be fully open. Those would be available behind the entry subscription. We just have to gather some funds for delivering more to the market and we cannot do that because we cannot do that other way because we are not selling hardware in huge volumes, so there is no margin for us in other places than just in selling the entry subscription. And I hope that we can find enough buyers for that to make it sustainable. Okay, let's go to the next one. Yes, MSI. And I have to say MSI is probably the roadmap to which we stick the most, and there is the least number of changes on this roadmap. So during the Dasharo User Group 1, which was somewhere in Q1, we promised that version 1.1.2 will be delivered in Q3, and we kept that promise because it was recently released. And we promised that 1.2, which is community release, which will go to everyone, should go to the public in Q4, but we moved that target further because we added some new releases. So we added 1.1.3 to the roadmap, which was new release added during Dasharo User Group, last Dasharo User Group. And there are some, we hope to release some overclocking features here. I know that Michik's already working on that. And I guess like we will have a bunch of other improvements and fixes with that small release of 1.1.3, which will happen in Q4. What else here? Yeah, I guess this 1.2.0, the community release, moved to first quarter 24. Yeah, so let's go to the next one. Here we have Z790. The situation is very similar to the 690. We essentially sticking to the maybe not exactly sticking, because the initial idea was to have community release in Q4, but then we added two releases, the 0.9 and 0.91. After adding those releases, then we shifted the version 1 release to the Q1 24. And so far we already released the 0.9, and I guess like we will release 0.91 in Q4, and there is no change and concerns about that. There is one new release that I added. We want to do the Dasharo Core Boot Plus heads, which will be based on the 1.0, I hope, or we can also base that on 0.91. We will see, but that will be different from the others because the others contain Core Boot plus UEFI, and this one will contain Core Boot Plus heads. And I guess this may be interesting for Jan because he asked for that. And I know that Q2 is maybe a long time. I hope we can do that earlier. To be honest, we did shifted left the releases for 690, so maybe we can do that for 790 with the heads, but we will see. Next, please. So we have our passionate Han Etzer, about whom I tried to talk on the during the agenda and the community heartbeat, but I know that not much gets to you. So Han Etzer recently is very active on porting. Previously, he was trying to do Asus Pro WSX570As, but he kind of gave up because of the serial ICE didn't work as expected with those images, and I think he tried multiple images. But I hope he will explain why he gets to the ASRock X370 killer. And we will see where he is in the development and how fast this can go, because this is very, how to say that, unusual development for the current state of the core boot, because this is AM4 AMD based AM4 socket Ryzen 3200, if I recall correctly. So if this will be successful, this would be very interesting achievement. But question is how long and how much energy is needed to achieve some reasonably stable state for this AMD hardware. Okay, let's move on. workstation area. Here, this area is probably one of the most active in changing the deadlines by us. So we initially thought that KGP D16 version 0.05 can be released in Q3, but we didn't make it. It was then changed to the first quarter of 24, and we even shifted that even further to QT 24. So the problem with KGP D16 is that essentially upstream don't like the old AMD code. I guess all the old target were dropped from the upstream, and I don't know if there's even chance to get back with those patches to upstream. There are still problems. There are still problems reported for version 0.4, which we released end of last year. But many people say it's way more stable than the previous code, than the older code. And I guess that LibreBoot even picked our code to base the new releases of LibreBoot on that. On the other side, there is not enough resources to fix everything. Yeah, this hardware getting old, and it's very hard to gather enough resources to fix everything here. On the other side, I'm discussing with Immunify because there is some money left from the bounty that they offered, and I'm trying to talk with them if there is chance to change the because we promised that this remaining money will go to the maintenance releases, but what we asking right now is 0.5 release with bug fixes, which change the way we want to allocate the resources, and it needs their approval, and we will see. We're also getting quite a lot of emails, and in some emails people even offer money for KCMA D8, I guess, or so this is very similar platform to this one, but anyway, yeah, I guess we probably will do open collective money gathering and see if there is enough interest in moving that target. Then we did also release of the Raptor computing system Talos 2 thanks to Insurgo sponsoring. Of course, the project went a little bit out of the control. It was way more complex than we anticipated, and essentially we crossed the budget probably twice. And in that way, we kind of invested our own margins to bring the core boot into Talos 2. But this is definitely thanks to the Thierry and motivation from him to push that forward. And we released 0.7 in Q3. So this is another accomplishment of Dasharo in recent months. Yeah, and I guess this is it for the workstation, and let's go with the server. Yeah, X11 SSH. Yeah, we had huge hopes for this hardware. I have this hardware in home. We have, thanks to Nitrokey, we have this hardware in 3M Dev Lab. But the problem here is that when we try to do trench boot and all this DRTM stuff for this hardware, and this is where the idea of the Dasharo is coming. We hope that we can do the DRTM stuff on this hardware, so we can do also release the Dasharo firmware for that with the DRTM capabilities. But it happened that this target was very hard to work with. A lot of problems like with BMC, with remote access, and we just couldn't get through that. And because of that, it just falls in priority. And last Dasharo User Group, we shifted by 1 quarter, and now we're shifting another quarter. And to be honest, I don't know if we will ever make this release. I know that some community members count on that, but what I can say, if this doesn't work and it's so hard to make it, and hardware is not so new, then yeah, I guess this is a huge problem for us, and there is no return on investment for this hardware. Maybe something will change, but but this is how this going. If we will continuously move on with the target date, then we will have to cancel it at some point. Okay, and that's it from my side. And thank you for listening. If you want to support us, please go to the shop. Please buy Dasharo entry subscription for your platform. Please deliver Dasharo. Please test Dasharo. You can also use shops of our partners. You can go to Nitrokey shop or NovaCustom shop, depending on what you need, and buy the hardware with Dasharo. And thanks to that, you support us and support companies which care about transparency, open source firmware. We're also looking for partners for resellers in Canada, US, Brazil. I guess that those are countries which still we don't have too much traction. We know that open source firmware is needed on that market, but still waiting for someone who will contact and would like to change something in that area. That's it from my side, and thank you very much for listening.
I had a question, but I forgot what it was. I'm looking over the roadmap spread. I forgot the roadmap slides. I don't have no idea what's going on with me today. In order to try remembering what the question was.
Which roadmap? Maybe you remember if I show it to you.
It's fine. I'm looking at the GitHub page, so I'm just scrolling through.
Okay.
So I guess like we are way behind the schedule. Like I don't know if there are any concrete questions, then let's go with that. If
yes,
not,
I
then...
remembered. I remembered.
Sure. Please.
Hey, I have a question. This isn't directly related, so it will probably need to be kept short and perhaps afterwards in the discussions a bit more.
Please ask.
I remembered that due to the Lenovo roadmap, I remembered I just that since in the past few weeks I accidentally semi-bricked my laptop's firmware. It's a Lenovo laptop. Not because I unlocked it, but because I accidentally configured one of the settings. That's not important right now. The interesting thing here is that the whole thing about unlocking the firmware, it's not just Lenovo laptops here. It's forget what's the name of the firmware vendor. The name of the product is H2O. Inside OS. So apparently there's been a security exploit in their firmwares these past years, and they only managed to partially patch it, I think, or it's a different security exploit that is currently being used in order to unlock devices with their firmware. I was wondering whether the situation with Inside's firmwares could potentially make things a bit easier to try getting hardware that by default runs their firmware to make it easier for debugging in order to and reverse engineering to get core boot on.
Yeah, I guess like all these exploits could help, but still this is a lot of work. Yeah. So
that is true. That's why I'm not expecting suddenly another target to materialize. I was just wondering if it could potentially help.
On the other side, it's also a question. Okay, let's say you have Intel bootguard locked Lenovo laptop. You have working exploit, but then like how you do this in scale, and then does it make sense to build business on such kind of weird flow? Yeah, it's like it's maybe good for some, niche indie seller and like to sell like let's say 10 or 15 here and there, but if someone wants to sell tens or hundreds, then I guess this is not reliable method. And on the other side, I don't know if you cannot get into trouble with Lenovo legal using exploitation to override the firmware.
Yeah, Lenovo is an enterprise OEM after all, so they won't take it lightly.
Yeah, from interesting stuff, like we can talk later about Lenovo, because like they are right now one of the sponsors of the UFI forum. If you look at the Plugfest, so if you look at the Plugfest, you essentially have 6 companies. It's AMI inside Phoenix, ARM, Microsoft, and Lenovo. So like think about
they have representatives for 12 promoter companies, though.
Yeah, so you can see like what kind of group of people it is, and like you can
inside themselves are also amongst them. So that that just complicates things even more.
Yeah. Okay. I guess like we have last more presentation. But I will give up with this presentation because of the I guess this presentation will I had hoped to introduce open source firmware validation, but Maciej's demo essentially introduced this from the practical point of view. I just wanted to give like more background and maybe as a discussion or questions to the Maciej's demo, we can do this introduction. Yeah. So Maciej, maybe we can switch to you and just start the demo because we are already half an hour after the schedule.
Can I just ask one thing? Not a question, a request.
Sure.
Could we at least, in some capacity, talk about the validation effort during the discussion at times? Not instead, like, yeah.
Yes. Let's Maciej show the demo, and then we can switch to like usual vPub discussion. But the next demo will be Han Etzer's demo on in 34 minutes, I would say. So we have like time for Maciej's demo, and then a little bit time for discussion, and then we're getting back on track with the schedule.
All right.
So
I see, like it's getting better when you're not moving anything.
yeah. 270p with frame rate of 3 FPS.
But it's not bad. It's not bad. I don't know how much details there will be needed.
Yep.
I wonder if trying to compress the video by third-party software, I don't know, piping it through might help.
Yeah, I guess the same. Like.
Secret browser. For such cases, I'm just using Chrome. It's the most reliable thing.
how you correlate whether you have completed the test, passed the test, or not. Because actually the HDMI input, you need some kind of OCR to recognize like what text it displays, or am I missing something? I never worked actually with these things and find it like interesting.
As I said, we also use serial, so we don't use PyKVM actually for.
It actually outputs this as text?
Yes, it outputs both at the serial port and HDMI the same. It's synchronized, so.
So you don't have to tinker with HDMI. Yeah, thank you very much.
So PyKVM part was just to visualize that really something happened. But
we also use it for input part because we can only read from serial, so we have to
input it with the keyboard.
Keyboard from PyKVM, and we also use it like for external access to work remotely on the device. It's useful.
Thank you.
And I can extend to that answer because in Cubes we use OpenQA, which actually does look on the video output and either compare with reference views, so you have some match percentage or something like that, or you can also do OCR on the output.
Thank you.
It's pretty interesting, actually.
If you are interested, I recommend watching my last presentation on that from previous Cube Summit.
Okay.
Okay.
So this isn't specifically about the password functionality. It's about validating it. It just happens that the password is one of the things that's validated.
Yeah, sure. It's one of many. We have like hundreds of tests right now. And yeah, it's just one of the features we are validating. It was just some nice feature to showcase, but yeah, we validate much more.
Yeah, I guess at some point I should have a kind of longer rant on validation itself, on validation of firmware itself. I had some presentation at some point where I kind of laugh at release notes from the proprietary BIOS vendors because like this is like improved performance, yeah. Or
it's wonderful, ain't it?
Yeah, but the point is we don't need that. We need a full transparency. So essentially, we need something like this. I need feature like, let's say, a password like UEFI password or like BIOS setup menu password to work
or
like
having
this.
numlock not turn on when you turn on the computer. Yes, I actually use that feature.
Yeah. So I need this feature to work like this, and there are requirements. Like let's put this requirement publicly on the website. But then I want everyone to confirm that what I implemented works according to requirements. So I write a test with certain steps, and then when I do the development, I run this test automated. Of course, everyone see the source code of the test, so they can confirm that what I'm running is exactly doing what I'm saying it's doing, and then they have those who see that can have some assurance about quality of the verification that I performed, and they also can say like, listen, like you just like forget about like 5 other examples which could extend this this validation and improve this validation, yeah. And thanks to that, someone can contribute to that, or just like issue a just issue the ticket to us, and we can try to extend the scope of the validation, yeah. And what's coming from the perspective of this executive order in US and all this stuff like with software bill of materials, it happens that it's not only about delivering the solution in which we know where are the piece of software coming from. It's not only about this. It's also about if this software works as expected, what works as requirements saying. And then how this can be proven? This can be proven by the logs from the validation. And the point is that we hope in longer run to publish the logs from validation to have confirmation of the validation process that we complied with the requirement that we described. And that's like bigger transparency than we had that we have in any BIOS implementation. And I hope like other open source firmware vendors will follow that. Of course, this is not cheap. As some marketing materials recently saying validation of the firmware can take even 50% of the budget of the project, or even more. So that's something that you have to keep in mind, that validation part is not cheap and it's not for free. And then we have this discussion, let's say with ZearBlazer, about compatibility, graphics compatibility, memory compatibility, CPU compatibility. But like if let's say 3MDEP have to do the MSI boards compatibility for CPU or for memory, like how much test we have to do, how much hardware we have to have, like how much this will cost. And ideally, in ideal world, we will have situation in which community can do that. Community can support us with the validation. Using this automatic stuff. Sure. Void.
Hello.
I hear you.
Can hear.
Stuff.
Maybe
you were talking about cost for and stuff.
You're breaking, like we cannot hear any full sentence.
Is there a lot of load on Tor?
Yeah, I guess this is Tor stuff. So Void, if you can type your question, that would be more helpful because we can't hear what you're saying.
Void isn't on Tor.
Okay. But still like I cannot understand what he's saying.
I've actually used Beagle Logic a little bit.
But how this would help? Like what part of the validation it should help? Tooling cost. Tooling is not that. So essentially, we have to keep infrastructure. It's of course infrastructure cost. There's energy. There is lab space. There is air conditioning for that. There is technical personnel who can install and manage networking around all these racks and all this stuff, replace whatever is broken, and so on and so on. That's the cost. But I guess probably the biggest cost is to develop tests and then run tests on the further releases of the process. Of course, if everything is fully automated, that's not an issue. But it's not like that. That you can keep automating infrastructure unbroken and without any issues for a long time. It's effort in itself. And to be honest, on our side, we just recently enabled laptop serial. And I guess that was also the trick, which, Maciej, you can spend some time explaining how we achieved the serial for the laptops, for the Clevo laptops.
I have already been showing the screen, the photos, but I don't know how clear was that.
The photo, how we connected things, yeah?
Yeah, I said that. Yeah, we have like I2C converter because we send logs from embedded controller over I2C to the external Nucleo board, and then we convert that to UART. and then UART is connected to PyKVM, and then we have like Certunet with Telnet, and then we can use Telnet serial over Telnet within our test framework.
Yeah. So the point is to lower the cost of the validation, and sometimes some targets are very hard to enable because of these hardware limitations, like lack of serial output. And then of course we have to get to some matching the screenshots, as Marek said, like they use in OpenQA for cubes. In case of RAM validation, yes, we do RAM validation. I have a fun story because I recently talked with potential customer who's doing business in Bavaria, doing like advanced memory stuff, and he even said very interesting things about how to validate if management engine doing anything dangerous by having interposers of the memory and by dealing with the memory and looking what trying to access memory. Yeah, that was very cool.
When you say interposers on the memory, do you mean like the Sega Genesis Tower of Power lock-on tech?
I'm not sure the names you're saying. I never heard those names.
It's okay. It's a bit of a nerd, video game nerd thing. Like, say you've got the DIMM slot, you plug something into the DIMM slot. That's the interposer, and then you plug the DIMM into that thing.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
But what that company is doing was very interesting because their point is to provide the validation and improvement of the PCB designs and also validation of the memory modules for the things that need extremely good reliability, like military medical grade stuff or high-end industrial SCADA systems on which human life rely. Yeah. So there cannot be failure because of the memory, and they're doing very cool tests through those interposers and some FPGAs, faking stuff, mixing memories, like doing weird stuff. And by that they selecting the some small group of these memories to be like production ready. So it's even smaller than whatever Intel approves. Yeah. That's very cool work. And he has this problems saying that something weird sometimes happen with the memory because he see that he can kind of put good memory and something trying to hit this bad memory. So even if nothing works on the platform. Yeah. So what's going on? Yeah? Who's accessing that memory? Yeah? And then of course this causes platform crashes, and and he was interested in our work because he was interested in getting kind of some special FSP features enabled to dump more data. There's some special features which are dedicated to memory training and memory dumping details of the memory training from the memory controller. And that was very interesting discussion. I would be glad at some point to dive into that, but I guess this belongs to the open source firmware conference or something like that. Anyway, I'm assuming it's a custom hardware. Yeah, it's a custom hardware. Yeah, with the FPGA most likely. I didn't saw that hardware. I saw that kind of hardware when I worked in Intel, the memory interposers, like cards, like a PCI cards that you put with bunch of memory modules, and then with some electrical switches and some additional chips to control those memories, how system can access that. But anyway, we should move on because there is already 9 p.m. in Poland. And Haneter, tell me if you can share screen, or if you want to share the screen, or what's your plan for presentation or demo?
Actually, I went ahead and pre-recorded a couple of them, a Skinema recordings. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.